May you live in interesting times. You heard that before? Yeah, it's a Jewish curse. And folks, we're living in interesting times. Devon, manages our sound booth, and she brought me this morning a piece of paper. It was the piece of paper that Margot put together all of the players on Sunday morning. She used to do that every week. And the one that Devon brought over was the last one we had of that document, of that structure, before we closed down, when we were told we couldn't have church. So it was interesting to see that, and it was the last Sunday in March of this year. And this is the last Sunday in November. That's 8 months. Doesn't it feel more like 8 years? The world has gone mad. We have restrictions on our travel. We have requirements to wear face masks. We have stay-at-home orders. We have so many things going on. I made a list of them here. I don't want to leave any out. Let's see. Social distancing is required everywhere you go. They're talking about 6 feet. Businesses, many of the small businesses in this country have closed. Things are weird. Things are strange that are happening. You might, if you happen to be an existentialist, you might be thinking you're having a nightmare. The whole idea of existentialism is based on the idea that we have absolute free will, that we all get to choose everything in our lives. It's not feeling like we're getting a lot of free will right now. When the government's telling us what we can or can't do, and so many restrictions and so many things. And the results are very clear. Cases of depression are up, anxiety through the roof, suicides. In Japan, there was a news report yesterday that more people have died of suicide in Japan this year than of COVID. I know. It's put such a stress and strain on us to be through doing this that many people are just not dealing with it. They're checking out. Or mental health issues are out of control. So many people are just not coping with this thing well. And that's the general population. Now, we have the advantage of being here at Center for Spiritual Living, or of listening online and learning from online, that is definitely helping. And I do hold that the existentialists are correct, that we are always at a point of choice, that we are creating our experience through our thinking, through our actions. But yet there's this overriding thing going on right now that reminds us that we're part of a society, we're part of a race of people living across this planet, and that out of all of that, things happen, and that we have to adjust. So one of the most important things I can think of in the midst of all this is, how are we feeling about ourselves? Because that's really what it comes down to, is how are we not just coping, but are we finding a way to manage this and even thrive in the middle of it? Some people are. Some people tell me they're having a ball. And so it's possible. And I'm not doubting at all that that's true for them, but it really takes some work. And the idea of self-confidence came to me, that really that's something we could focus on and think about. But I don't want to just stand here and give you a bunch of ideas around that. What I want to do today is something a little different. I want to give you a survey. I want to ask you 9 questions. I'll probably talk a little about them, but I want you to keep track of how you do with this survey. If you get an absolute yes to one of the questions I ask, make note of that, because that's something to celebrate. And the ones that you can't really give a total affirming yes to, something less than that, means there's something to look at, something to work on, something to focus on to get even better at this. Now, I know we have a high level of self-confidence in our community. That we thrive from that. But we've never faced anything like this before. So this is an opportunity, I believe, for you to kind of look at how you're doing with your life, and it in no way suggests that you are in any way wrong. This is not what this is about. And I'm not trying to say you're right either. I think, though, if you answer all of the questions with an affirming yes, that you're maybe not being realistic. But we'll see. It might be, okay? Who knows? Who knows? But we're going to go through these one at a time. Just think about them and think about how we're doing. And we're going to start with the ones that are so steeped in science of mind, which you could just about guess. Here's where we're going to go. With our 9 questions to assess self-confidence. Number 1, do you have confidence that there is a divine presence at the center of your being that is more powerful than any other force in your life? Now that one comes really quick, and yes. And I'm not suggesting, if you're not quite sure about that, I'm not suggesting that you understand that divine presence. I'm not suggesting that you've got it all figured out and you know how it works. That's not what I'm talking about. All I'm suggesting is, do you know it's there? Do you know that you can rely on it? And that it's really not something separate from you? And if you can do that, that's great and that's important. And I say if you can answer yes to this one, that's as good as it can get right there, if you know that that's there, although you have to take this and put it into action. So we move to the second one, which is directly connected. It asks, if so, can you make powerful and meaningful demonstrations in your life with and through this presence? Okay, how does that apply? Well, it's one thing to know that there's this divine presence, if you want to call it God, that's fine. I don't care what you want to call it. But that you know that there's something, as Ernest Holmes would say, greater than you are, that is always there, that you can use, then you know it's there. But this is asking, do you use it? What do you do when the challenge shows up really big in your face? And what are your first thoughts? And I'll admit, right up front, that there are plenty of them where I go, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this. What do I do next? I can't see on the other side of it. But then I remember. Yeah, I remember. I do have the ability to do this. Not by myself. I think that was one of the cool things that Jesus taught. He said, not by me, but by the Father that lives within me. That's what he was talking about. Can you move through and demonstrate change and outcome in your life, knowing that there's a divine presence within you, knowing that even if you can look at it and go, I don't know how to do this, that still it can be done, that's not a stopping point. That doesn't limit you. So can you demonstrate is the question. No matter how big it is, can you demonstrate an outcome in your life that shows that presence is active within you? Good question. And a great way to develop a sense of self-confidence, I would say. All right, that's 2. The third one we've got is, do you know one or more people who you can trust to support you no matter what? This is a good one. This is an important one. Because we did not come to planet Earth to be alone. We did not come to planet Earth to handle everything by ourselves. We are interdependent. We have one another to rely on. This is a very intimate question, though. This goes beyond just this thing that we do for one another, that we have farmers that grow food. We have distribution centers that package and deliver the food to the grocery store, that we have retail outlets that sell it to us. So all we have to do is bring it home and cook it and eat it. Okay, that's that supply chain idea, and it's important, it's essential, but at the same time, the question that's being asked is, do you have someone that would show it for you no matter what? Whatever's going on, if you needed them, would they be there? Now, can you see how that would create some self-confidence? If you knew that was there? And chances are, if you are self-confident within that, you never have to ask for it. You just know it's there. When Barbara and I got married, we wrote our wedding ceremony. And in it, we wrote a blessing. And I want to share, see if I can do this without crying. We wrote a passage that I think really applies to this idea. So that at the end of our days, we can say to one another, because you have loved me, you have called me to have faith in myself. And because I have faith in myself, all of my dreams have come true. My journey with you has made my life complete. Yeah. So Barbara and I have learned how to do that together, and we've done it well. She said to me this morning when we were drinking our coffee, so much of this is on you now. So much is falling for you to do, and she, I don't know what else she said about that, but I said, wait a minute. All those years that I was off being the leader of our movement, you handled everything. You handled it brilliantly. You taught and you did Sunday, and there were plenty of days I wasn't here. I was in some other center somewhere else in the world. This is my time to do that. And out of that, we have each other. So the next question, going back to 3, the next question that fits so perfectly with this one is, are you that person in someone else's life? Is there someone who could call you day or night, anytime, and you would say, I'm on my way. I'm there. It doesn't have to be the same person that has it for you. But for the balance of life, you need to be that for somebody. If you're not, that's something really powerful to work on. Who is it that you could say that to? I would be there no matter what. And that's empowering as well. Because if you have someone who will stand with you that way, that means you're worth standing with. Now, that'll build some self-confidence. Yeah. Next one. Do you have unrealized desires, intentions, or aspirations that you believe you can and will acquire or achieve in your lifetime? Having some desire for something more actually creates an amazing ability to be self-empowered and to have confidence in yourself. There's still stuff to do. Bless her heart, Deborah was saying to me this morning, after last week having had her 3rd heart attack, that she doesn't know why she's here. And it's so clear to me. She's obviously got something else to do, or she wouldn't be here. Yet she's here. And she's walking around, connecting, talking. And someone, maybe many people, will find value in your being here too. I do. I find great value in it. Yeah, so if you don't have anything left to do, not a good sign. So kind of take a look at that maybe and see, what is it that's mine to do? Now, we're not always going to be in a pandemic. It's going to end. But life will be different afterwards. We may not be able to do all the things we thought we were going to do. Perhaps there's something wonderful that we can do because we have a plan, because we have a desire out there in the world. It's a key element in living a full, rich life. Okay, number 6. Do you believe that your personal values provide direction and meaning for your life? So I would ask you, do you have a list of the primary values of your life? We have shared values at this community, and they're written across the back wall there, so everybody can remember what they are, no matter what's going on. But we all have to have them individually, too. They're the guideposts that keep us moving in the direction we want to move with our lives. And they don't lose any value amidst a pandemic. They're still real. And most everybody has as one of theirs, and it's one of ours as a group, too, is love. As a value that I must have love in my life. I must be aware of the presence of the divine as love every day. And it should come very naturally. That's the thing about values. They're not something you're seeking or you want to find or you want to develop. They're natural. They come naturally every day. They come as part of your being. So if you have a sense of what they are, what they also give you as a sense of confidence is that you're moving in the right direction because you've created your direction. You know where you're headed. You know why you're here. And you know what's important while you're here. So having values is a key way to develop self-confidence. Number 7 is, are equity and inclusion of all people important to you? This is an interesting conversation. What I am aware of in my study of history is that human beings, through most of our history, have been divided into classes, into groups. And every time you do that, you're limiting who those people that you're grouping together in your mind. You're limiting your ability to see who they are. So perhaps all the discontent that's been shared around this in recent months is a blessing that's calling us all to drop all this class stuff, all this socioeconomic or racial or otherwise ways of separating us. We don't need to be separate. We need to remember that divine presence dwells in all of us, without exception. There is nobody on this planet, no matter how much money they have in the bank, no matter where they live, no matter what they drive, no matter the color of their skin, that makes them any less God than you, nor any more God than you. So if you play that class game, what you're doing is you may be looking down at some people, but you're also setting up that other people are looking down at you. How's that going to work? So perhaps what we're doing right now is evolving beyond that, where that doesn't have to be an issue. And it looks bad on the world scene that the U.S. is going through all this grappling right now. But you know what? I think we're ahead of the curve. I think there are plenty of cultures in this world that do not welcome in people who have different ways of seeing the world, who look different. There's plenty of that still going on, and they're going to have to find it after us. So we're doing all right. I think that being on this path and doing this work really does make a difference, and that this idea of oneness does not mean sameness, that the one presence and one power dwells in us no matter how we look, how we sound, what we have, or otherwise. So this is a powerful way of protecting ourselves from falling into some way of separating us from the rest of life. It's important, and it's valuable to our self-confidence to play the game of equity and inclusion and leaving nobody out. Number 8, can you find God in every condition you experience? Yeah. Emerson said, even in the muck and mire of things, something sings. And he's right. And that's been one of the most powerful things I've learned in my life. When I see something that looks awful, ooh, I go, wait a minute. God's got to be in there. That divine presence is in this thing that looks so awful. I got to find it. And I do. If you look for it, you find it. You know, so the whole idea is that if we're going to feel good about who we are and how we're being in the world, we can't find fault in others, and even in other situations. We have to recognize that there's something good about that. And Holmes uses that word good, and I resisted it for years. I said, because if you got good, you got to have bad. And really, I've studied him long enough to know that he didn't believe in bad. He only believed in good. He broke the rules on how our language works, but in a really effective way. That God is good, the same thing. And that God is omnipresent, so everything has to be good. And it's our job to see the good. No matter what, how nasty it looks, there's something there. Now, it may be something that has to emerge from it. Okay. I think I just gave a pretty good example of all the riots and the upset around racial issues in this country is going to end up being something that really works out for us. So just because it looks bad in the moment, don't reject it and say, no, that's a really bad thing that's happening. It's really easy to go there, but it doesn't help. Okay. And I think the last one is coming. Do you know that your life is unfolding perfectly when things are easy and when they are not? It's so easy to go into that place of despair. And I'm sure that if all of you were asked, you would say, yes, I go into a state of despair from time to time. God knows I do. But it's not a place to stay. It's only a place to visit for a moment. Because there's too much good to life to stay there. But what it does do, and it was Gibran that said, the lows of our lives create the possibility of the highs. So don't make yourself wrong if you fall into that trap, that all is lost or something bad or this is not the way it should be. However you want to play the words and the thoughts in your mind, don't make yourself wrong for that. Just don't stay there. Let that be that alarm that goes off in you that says, find God. Find God in the midst of this. It's not a bad thing. And that applies to everything, even the really hard things. Sometimes people leave our lives that we love, but it was time for them to go. It was time for them to be set free from this thing called living on planet Earth. We're all going to do it. It can't be a bad thing. We'll miss them, but that's okay. It's okay to miss somebody. It's okay to remember. It's okay to live this life and to have the human experiences. They support us. And I believe that when we are willing to find the good in life and realize that whatever's happening is happening exactly as it must, then we can have the confidence to move through it and to live the life we've come to live. So there they are, 9 ideas. I particularly love this picture of the guy on the tightrope across the mountains. It's so unreasonable. Probably photoshopped. But it really spoke to me when I saw it, in that sometimes life feels like that. This pandemic can cause life to feel something like that. But don't stay in despair. Don't find it wrong. Don't be afraid. Be smart. Don't be afraid.